that tour with Robert was fucking amazing. By
That
the
was
way.
so great, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's like I feel like the amateur comedian that's got to go up after someone who kills. like just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do this. I'm really excited. And then I watched that today and I was like, oh.
Wow. Are you
Well,
recording this, Janky?
Yes, I will.
Because that's the best comment like I've ever heard.
We'll send it to Robert to make him feel better about himself.
Hey everybody, it's Dove from DKE Toys, and welcome to DKE Toys TV. This is episode 7, and we are here with our guest host Janky and Scott Cherry from Barbarian Rage, and our special guest host Skot Deeming from YoYoDyne. YoYoDyne Toy Division, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
YoYoDyne is, I mean, most people these days are just calling me Yo-Yo. which was like the most accidental nickname. I mean, I guess all nicknames are not ones we choose, but when people started calling me that, I remember seeing an old clip from the Electric Company with Spider-Man, and he would have the pop balloons and it just said, "What a yo-yo." I was like, that's me now. I guess that's me now. Yeah.
My nickname in college was Balls, so I'll take Yo-Yo any day.
Yeah, Yo-Yo's a step up from that. Yeah.
Wow. So here we are. How's everybody?
Good.
Doing real good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Poor Ian.
Ian's cleaning toys.
Ooh.
It's not very happy. So we got this one collection that we picked up from this guy who. Did I tell the story about the dude and his wife said that if you don't get rid of this stuff, I'm going to give it away at your funnel?
Oh
tell
yeah,
that story.
Yeah.
Funeral we all wanted tickets to.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, a lot of it, sort of mainstream package stuff, and we dealt with that. But there was a lot of loose designer vinyl and resin, like sort of like statue-y kind of pieces, but they were so dirty, and we got to the point where we separated. I have boxes of junk vinyl and junk resin, like detritus, and then there's some pieces that are right now he's cleaning this huge signed Huck G vinyl that's like, how big is that? 12 inches, 18 inches? Can you hand it to me? It's like, it's worth the time to like.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Huge. It's got wings and it's signed, it's numbered on the bottom.
Man.
And so we get these things numbered out of 100, and so it's like sometimes you gotta clean.
Sometimes you gotta get the toothbrush out.
So there you have it. So Scott, what are you up to?
Just finished a bunch of different like zine fairs and punk rock flea markets as a vendor all over parts of Ontario, which were really fun.
Nice.
Except for the one in London, because being in Canada and doing an outdoor event in April sometimes isn't the warmest of events. It's not as bad. At the Kitchener Punk Flea, they had us outside on a patio that wasn't enclosed with a propane heater beside us, and when we started, we actually had to scrape the ice off the table that they gave us.
Oh god.
This is welcome to arts and crafts shows in Canada.
Nothing complements handmade card backs like icy wet table.
Yeah, and a leaky awning as the snow melted as the sun hit it. It was we literally had an old like beer pitcher in the middle of the table catching drops partway through the show.
Hey, we said it was a punk rock flea market.
Yeah,
what
it was
did you
a punk
expect?
flea
That's
market,
true.
Right? Yeah. No, so those are really fun. Just finished teaching for I'm sort of between courses. I'm probably going to be teaching a course in the summer. And just finished my first academic symposium presentation that I'm presenting in 2 weeks about homecraft and the artist made action figure.
Amazing.
Which is part of the, and then part of the whole PhD thing. and taking a bit of a break from toys, because if I don't finish this thing, you know, I'm 10 years into a 7-year PhD. It is time to finish this thing. So I
do not envy you.
It's fine. You know, it's just, yeah, just like anything else, it's a daily thing, right? It's the job I hired myself for. So
right.
Just read a really brilliant book about the history of pastiche and how that basically is a defining characteristic of our art form, I think, in a very real way.
Nice.
And it's really interesting.
You have a copy of the book there?
I do. It's called Pastiche, Cultural Memory in Art, Film, and Literature.
Huh.
Cool.
I just picked it up and I'm already halfway through it. And it's great because the word pastiche comes from the Italian pasticcio, which basically was knockoff paintings made during the Renaissance of people mimicking the art styles of other master painters. So it lines up. Like, I was like, I just found the main thread that I can pull on through all of my writing.
Wow.
Like, here it is. This is what we're talking about, right? So yeah, kind of feeling mentally charged again and getting back to work on that stuff.
Awesome.
That's amazing. I don't know if at this age I could go back to school and just we were talking about that in the warehouse the other day, and one guy who works here, Eric, he's a younger guy, and I was just joking, like, in this last collection that we got all this dude's like VHS tapes, all his Betamax tapes, all his cassettes, his mini cassettes, his records, his 8-tracks, like, it's all there. But then there's also a half a dozen Betamax players and DVD players and a 3/4-inch deck, and it's just like, I don't know what to do with it all. But you know, I just joked with him, like, hey, like, you need to go to like some sort of tech school and figure out how to service this stuff. And he's like, cool, you're gonna pay me to go to school? And I was like, you know, it was a joke, obviously, but then he just thought that was so cool. And then one of the other guys that was here working on toys just said, oh, that sounds terrible, going to school. He's like, why? School is fun. And then he mentioned just like the nightmares that he still has, like, as you know, pushing like 50 and having the, you know, these nightmares about, like, you know, turning your stuff in on time and all that stuff. Like, that stuff has still never left me. Like,
it's like that joke in Top Secret when he's being whipped by those Nazi soldiers, and he passes out. He wakes up and he has a dream that he's back in school. and he wakes up and he's still being whipped by the Nazis, and he like has this sigh of relief that he's not in school.
It's we've been having that conversation around here lately, because I've been tossing around the idea of going back to school, and it's terrifying. Like, even thinking about doing it is terrifying. So
just how many times I've had that dream of showing up to class and not having my work ready, like that. Just that's like reoccurring. Like,
I flunked out of film school, and I'm thinking about going back to learn psychology. I'm like, this might not be a good idea. This may not be a good fit.
Yeah, wow. I think I started. When did I start my master's? I was already 36, I think, when I started my master's. So I was already well out of school, and then went back. But I haven't been in like school in 8 years. I haven't had a class, because it's all self-directed work. Once you do 2 years of coursework and a PhD, and then everything else you are literally just on your own.
But now you're teaching, so you want to go bat for the other team. So it's like,
yeah, and teaching is a much better way to be in a classroom, I have to admit. I love it, man. Yeah, I love it. Teaching has become a real passion, actually.
But how do you deal with the kids who like just don't give a shit?
You just don't talk to them. Like, honestly, no. So,
you're here for the easy A? Fine, coast. I'm not.
Well, nobody gets an easy A with this fella, first of all. But the pandemic really changed education and the way that students pay attention, or not. Like, when I was teaching online, it would be a Zoom call like this, except I would not see any faces. I would just see little like names, and I would just be speaking into the darkness. So I started pre-recording lectures, so at least I gave myself like a way to sort of not have to sit there for 3 hours and just facilitate like a 1 hour conversation with them. Go watch the lecture. Go watch the lecture. There's your 2 hour lecture content. Come on board and discuss it. And then you'd get like maybe out of it, like one of the classes was 150 students, and you get like maybe 10 or 12 that are really in it, right? And so you're having a conversation with them. And now that we've gone back to in-person learning, it's kind of the same thing, except kids, like I just had a class of 65 students. The average attendance rate for the term, I would say, would be somewhere between 17 and 26 students out of 65.
What?
Yeah.
And
on average across all of my classes. I taught a class of 150 in a big lecture hall for the first time in my life in from September to December. And day one there was 150, and like week 3 there was maybe half of that. They just kind of check out.
What are the other half doing?
Not being in class.
What are all you kids on dope?
Watching Judge Judy.
But I mean, are they
legitimately
passing the class?
As long as they're like, because I would also, because of the pandemic, and like that was when we were transitioning back, so you get a lot of people out sick a lot. So my lecture notes would be really robust. So if there was any information that they needed, you didn't actually have to be in class to get the skeletal structure of the lecture, right?
Oh, I see. Okay. I guess it depends what kind of learner you are. Like there are some people, I do better sitting in a lecture listening to the words spoken to me. Like that tends to go in for me, but there's other people that they're not auditory and that you just hand them the thing and they just read it and that works better for them. So I mean that's interesting.
Yeah, you speak to who's in the room, right?
Sure.
Like in anything. And
well, that's good. I mean, so you don't take it personally though.
I did.
You did.
That was a process, honestly. I think that finally you sort of just get to the point where even if there are people in the room who are like clearly on their phones or staring at their laptops and doing other things, you just speak to the people whose attention you actually have, right?
Do you find that you've had students that come in thinking it's going to be like a breeze class or a blow off class that end up being converted by the end of it and are really into what you're doing?
Yes. And I credit all of that to my ability to teach.
And like on the flip side, are there people who like come to the class and at the end of it just totally hate you and think you're like the devil?
You'll get a couple of groaners.
Just say no.
But not really. Really. Honestly, I put a lot of energy into like usually if I teach a 3-hour class, like that is countered by a 2-hour nap shortly after. Like I'm a very energetic lecturer.
Wow.
I mean, I just taught Introduction to Video Game Studies. It's a really interesting field. I have done like my master's thesis was in that, right? I'm really passionate about the medium, and we just get to have a conversation about that every week. That's how I sort of view it.
That's amazing.
It really like I've said this to other people, and I never thought that I would say that I found a profession that I thought was a calling until like just the past couple of years. This used to be a job and I used to gripe about it, and then something happened. I think I was stuck at home alone for 2 years, and it was my only point of contact with humanity, and that changed things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. It's
awesome.
And if all goes well, I'll be teaching another game studies course this summer, and gonna put my Mark Harmon summer school Hawaiian shirts on, and
that's amazing.
go from there. Yeah.
While we got you here, can you show some of the stuff that you were selling at all these fairs? Do you have a copy of your zine handy?
No, but it's still packed away. But I have some of the stuff, the new stuff that I've done. I took the Captain Crunch Sogmaster cereal premium and I cast it because that's what we do. But because he has the thing had a flat face where there was pad printing in a chess piece, I decided to see if I could make him a platform toy.
You posted these on Instagram, and I love this figure. It's such a good use of that.
Turned him into Krang. And then someone else
Yeah.
suggested that I turn it into the armor, the what was it, whatever, the snake armor suit from G.I. Joe.
Nice.
And then I was gonna do a sound wave and a blaster.
Serpentor.
No, you know that like armor set that you would like snap on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'm just in the actually hold on one sec.
I have that zine. Right
Oh,
here.
there we go.
There it is. Hey, Scott, he's got
Picking
it.
up where Scott left off.
Do you want to tell us what that is?
That is Plasticity. It is a 44-page zine that I released in October. I'm on my 3rd printing already.
It's great.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of kind of part, I guess, autobiographical experience with toys, like bringing it in closer, right? Because most collector magazines, it's like, here's all this cool shit, and here's like your photo guide and to your colorways and your packaging variation or whatever. I wanted to make it more about like sort of personal stories because these things are so personal to us. So there's a travel guide to bootleg toy hunting in Mexico City in there that's like 16 pages because I lived there for a summer working on an art project.
That's sort of the in my opinion, sort of the heart of the book, because it is amazing. Like, it makes me want to go do all of this, and it's not just where you go get toys, but it's also like where to find like cool wrestling, and there's a really cool toy museum in here.
Yeah,
with all this luchador shit and everything. It's awesome.
yeah,
I want to go to that toy museum really bad.
the Roberto's, that was where the art project was that I did. In 2017, I curated an exhibition. It was myself and 7 Mexican street artists, and it was called the Ghost Arcade, and we used found materials and sort of like discarded furnishings from the warehouse of the museum and all the bootleg toy technology from the like the gamer plazas where you could get like modded Xboxes and PlayStations, and we made a bootleg arcade, and each artist made a cabinet.
Oh, that's awesome.
and we had a studio for the entire summer in the museum, which also became the gallery. And so my job was to like, I got a bunch of funding to do the project. So my job was to go out, get materials, help them build things, you know, be a kind of like support person to scaffold this. And yeah, I've got to show more photos from that show, because the cabinets were incredible.
Yeah. I'd love to see that stuff. That's
yeah, so that's why the part about the museum is so robust in there, is because I like lived in this museum for like 3 months.
The great thing about that zine is it's like scholarly without being heady. Like it feels it's really well written, and it feels like you're getting information, but it doesn't feel like you're in class. You know, you did a really great sort of
Thank you. Yeah, it's I've straddled this line as a writer for years, where if I'm writing for a magazine, they're like, your stuff is too scholarly, and if I'm writing for the scholarship, they're like, it's not scholarly enough. so I guess I'm winning. Yeah, I guess I've hit the sweet spot.
Now it's time for What You Dove Buy. Hey dude, what'd you get?
Speaking of Mexican bootlegs, I'll show you something that I got in a collection. And that I snagged for myself.
I love that thing, man.
Guys, is it
I
like
love that thing.
Is it like a vinyl piggy bank, or just a hollow, like a vinyl toy?
It's just like a vinyl chunk of vinyl, but in it are 3 what I think are Transformer soaps.
Oh my god,
man, this is speaking to me on so many levels.
I mean, it's just
I love it.
I mean, the
amazing.
face,
I mean, the leg anatomy alone is worth that is a squatty potty He-Man right there.
You know what you need to do? You need to animate that like the Akira slide, you know?
But it's the Transformer soap that is just 3 bars of Transformer soap.
That's the land shark. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's
so good.
And I'm not even like, you know, really a He-Man collector in any way, shape, or form, but these just struck me as like
fantastic.
they're so unbelievable that
Those are
Sounds like-
important works. That's
Yeah.
At a toy show recently, my partner and I found bootleg Thundercats and She-Ra like collectors sticker packs from Mexico.
Oh, cool.
And what's really funny about them is that when you open them up and you look at, so the only thing that they've done to alter them is every one has like a gold star on it somewhere. But
What does that do?
I have no idea. But they're also not stickers. They're just printed on like semi like card glossy stock. So you gotta glue them in.
That's crazy.
And we bought tons of them because this vendor had a shitload of them and was selling them really cheap. And I was like, oh my God, I've never seen these before. And I have a huge Mexican bootleg collection. And then we got them home and started opening them. And I'm like, these aren't stickers.
That's stickers.
But do they say stickers? Like
No,
they were.
they don't say
Oh.
anything other than they just have like a stamp on like a little paper envelope of like the brand, either Thundercats or She-Ra, and that's it.
Wow.
a
Yeah.
gold star does equal transformative. So take
Yes,
that.
indeed. Let me show you a couple other things that came in this week. Delicious again, Peter from the UK made this amazing
That's awesome.
Nice.
this carded figure. It's called Superstar Stand. It's Garbage Fail Kids, and it is oh, I see the first one he made a larger statue. I think it had a Nike shoe on it, and I believe that these are Adidas.
Yep.
Here's the back. The art is by Andrew. Am I saying it right? Houle, Houle. Hope I'm not massacring his name.
His work keeps getting better and better and better, and he started at a high level already. So he's one of those guys that every time he puts out a new piece, I'm just like, man,
He's doing a nice job. Another figure. So as Ian and I going through the archive, we're finding some stuff that is either we have not kept track of who made it, or it is not signed, or we're just total, befuddled as to who made it. So I posted one. Maybe I posted this one on.
Oh, that's so
Oh.
cool.
That's awesome.
And the reason it's so amazing is because if you look, it's a
The
It's a
Ben
snaggle-
Cooper.
snaggletooth
Oh.
body.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And
so it's
it's actually
Snaggletooth dressed up like Darth Vader.
yeah,
Is that what's sort of implying?
I don't know,
'Cause that's-
but
Well, that's the Ben Cooper.
The costume, yeah, the
Yeah, the
costume.
vinyl character smock that made you sweat and itch when you were a
Yeah,
kid,
so
like,
that's what
or,
I'm
like-
saying is like, if it's put on a Snaggletooth body, maybe it's like a Snaggletooth wearing the Ben Cooper Darth Vader costume.
well, what's funny is so this was dated 2021.
the trick or
here's the-
treat title of them also makes sense then in that case. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says 162 designs. I started looking, and it's like I couldn't find. I looked through my Instagram. Who, like, obviously I've communicated with this person, and then someone said, "Oh, it's what's it? TK_162." I was like, "Oh yes, right." So then of course I go to his Instagram, and then I'm looking, and I'm like, "Oh no, there's more pieces that I don't have," and so then made contact again, and I got a stormtrooper, and then of course the obligatory Boba Fett, all again with
Nice.
snaggletooth bodies. Like,
those are great.
Those are fantastic. I really like those.
Awesome.
yes. Here's another piece I got. It's called Original Dick in a Box.
Wow.
And the artist name, I hope I'm saying it right. It's Abibi, Abiebi, and the Instagram is hello_Abibi. And I keep missing out on
On Dixon boxes.
no, on their
I mean, there's some
toys,
corners you can go where they just hand them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because there's a whole line of Simpsons and I don't have any of them. And of course I love Simpsons bootlegs, but
Oh, that the what's that? Dickie Balls, is that his name?
Wow.
Yeah.
so like the eyes are missing.
It's definitely not what I was expecting you to
Not
pull
at
out
all,
of that
yeah.
box.
It's like wow.
Really awesome.
And so there's a whole line of Simpsons ones too. This is all hand painted.
Wow.
It's an edition of 30.
Are they resin?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's only 30 pieces. So
Wow, really nice.
Bullseye.
yeah, it's like I saw. It's just let's just make sure you get it at all angles.
Yeah.
The one on, I'm assuming it's a he, and maybe I shouldn't assume that. On their Instagram, was a Betty Boop, like, and like she had no eyes, and then her eyes were her breasts, like with those little like stone die, the stone Betty Boop eyes.
That'd be funnier if she had balls, if her eyes were her balls.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Boop.
had to go there.
I mean, I didn't buy that toy. You opened that door. Says the guy whose nickname was Balls in college.
All right, and this last piece is by Dave Linares, Akashic Records.
Yay,
I
Dave!
love
Is
that guy.
Akashic Toys now? I don't know. We have a die cutting machine that we bought. And it's this little fold out thing with this wheel, and you just mail away to this company. They make a die, and we think they're using prison labor. We're not sure about that, but they make the die, and you put whatever material you want on it, and then this piece of, like, I don't know, it's like Lexan or something, and then you grind it through, and it pushes it onto the die, and you get these perfectly die cut capes and stuff. So he hit me up like, how do I make capes? And I said, here, just give me the design. Or he just paid for the design, they shipped it here, and he just came here and was just sat here for an afternoon cranking. And he's made several Mysterious Zeo vinyl action figure.
That thing
Such a
is so
great
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's obviously very Darth Vader inspired.
Darren Karza inspired too, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I love that colorway.
the clear
helmet.
colorways he did on that just really shine.
This,
The helmet comes off.
yeah, oh yeah, that's right. And then there's another little head inside.
Yeah.
Oh, don't wanna fuck it up.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it right now. Sorry,
Okay.
Dave, if you're watching.
It's
but-
a
and then
Yeah.
they're so
Oh, man.
awesome. They're just so cool.
so it's
He-
cool deal for me, because my deal with, like, he I let him use the machine, and he's like, I'll give you one of each toy, and I'm like, score.
Those are so cool.
and it's Star Wars, like,
Yeah, it's
My
amazing.
my second year
He did
doing
really good
designer
work.
con, the guy I'd shared tables with had to back out at the last minute, and so he actually set me up with Dave. So Dave and I shared a table at designer con the second year I did it, and he is just A, super talented, and B, just an amazingly nice person. So
Unbelievable. Yeah.
his work just I'm back
Yeah.
I've got right
Can
here.
paint the shit out of a toy, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. This was the first figure he did.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
The Death Bear, which he gave me one to paint. I don't know if he gave it to me. I might have stolen it, but he's like, "Here, paint this one," and then I kept it. Made some guns for it, but yeah, this is the first one he did. But he's on at least fourth or fifth figure at this point. He's really great work.
Hey, look, I got my grail.
I know.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, finally.
Is that the resin cast, or is that the original?
It's the original. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to cast it.
Is that one of those like plaster paint it?
You know, it looks
It's-
plaster, but it's vinyl.
It's vinyl.
Oh.
Yeah.
How much
Yeah,
We've
was
been
it?
having a whole debate about how to. properly
How I'm gonna cast it.
cast
Yeah, because I got the Strong Heart one too.
Oh,
How much
nice.
was it?
It was $165 with these two, and I bought a Tweaky.
Whoa, that's good. You
Yeah,
were ready
that's
to
good.
pay like $300 just for the
I
just for the
know.
guy to cast a resin copy for you.
Yeah. Well, I still have to cast a resin copy of it.
Well, the last
Yeah.
one of those that sold, I think, sold for $275 in like 2013 or some shit.
Yeah, it was like 11 years ago. It's the only other Warduke that I've ever seen. One of
I had to
these.
go on Worth Point to calm Scott down.
I've seen one other one of these once.
I've never seen one like in person, and is there a photo even of it online in a package?
There
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
which is why, like, when I went crazy and was like, I gotta have this, I gotta have this, and I just searched and searched and searched, and I'm like, it's just the one picture from the package. I was like, it's got to be just a prototype. I'm like, it looks. I think it had been released, and then I saw a picture of a guy that was like, "Oh, look what I got from the flea market one day," and I was like, "You motherfucker!" I'm like, "Dude, please." I'm like, I begged him for it. I offered him $300 and a resin cast when I was done, and he was like, "No, sorry."
He said no.
And after that, then I went even crazier because I knew that it exists, and I was like, anyone. I reached out to Billy Galaxy, and he was like, "Yeah, I've never even seen one." And that's when I was like, "Fuck, man, I'm never gonna get this thing." So the guy that found that first one, this one too.
Jeez,
Wow.
that guy needs to buy
Yes.
some lottery tickets.
Yeah, and this one, I've never seen anywhere. This is the only one of these I've ever seen.
Wow.
Which one is that?
It's the Strongheart
Strongheart.
one. It's the only 2 Dungeons and Dragons
Wow.
that they made for these.
Well, congratulations, dude.
Yes.
On sale now.
A new item that we have in the store is we made this exclusive for Ron English's propaganda site. This is a set of all 5 of the Ron English figures that we've made
So cool.
in gold.
They look great in gold.
Cool.
We made that little Kenner style sticker,
Oh, that looks great.
and they all have matching numbers.
Man, that
That's my
face
favorite
really
one.
looks like a butthole in
That's
gold.
a-
That is
No, you know what it looks like? You remember the Vincent Price apple heads?
Oh
Apple sunken
yeah.
heads?
And so they're all signed by Ron English on the back. They're numbered out of 20. And so let's say this is 15. So these are all 5 of these are numbered 15 out of 20. They're on the site now. They're $500 for a set. There's a few left. And for most of these, this gold edition is going to be the very last one ever. So
I
there you
can't
have it.
imagine those are going to hang around too long.
Well, he sold there's only 20. He sold a boatload of them on his site, and we have a few of them up on our site now. So check them out.
And now it's time for news and reviews with DKE Toys.
So I just finished watching this show on the History Channel. It's called The Toys That Built America. If any of you caught that, there's 2 seasons of it, and it was 14 episodes, and I watched them all. I thought the show was amazing. I previously watched that other Netflix one. What's that other one?
The Toys That Made Us.
The Toys That Made Us, and each episode was about like one, and I enjoyed that, but
It was about a toy that you actually gave a shit about, not Slinky.
it's true, but I like this History Channel show because it was
good.
It was really about the history of toys, and it started at the beginning, and it was really amazing. Just like how, like, most of these people were assholes. Like they were just stealing. They were just stealing ideas from each other, ripping stuff off.
That's the American spirit and American entrepreneurism right there.
But when you watch the 2 series that came before that were The Men That Made America and The Food That Made America. And this one falls perfectly. And it's the same thing. It's just like, how do I fuck you over to make my company work? How do I steal this idea? Or rivalries that form over nothing. And I thought this was a really good companion piece to those 2. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, the episode about like went into the video games and Lego and like all of these, like how, I mean, it started in the 1800s, right? Where like Parker Brothers and Milton Bradley are like duking it out for like board games, and then someone steals Monopoly from this poor
old lady.
For this poor woman, and
it's called the landlord game. Sounds fun.
Something that show also laid out was that toy history is also about the history of men stealing good ideas from women.
Mhm.
The Marvin Glass episode, right, had Light
Right.
Bright. The Cabbage Patch Kids with Xavier Roberts and the woman who originally made them as soft sculptures. After, yeah, I just binged after we spoke like a week or two ago when we emailed about the show tonight. I was like, I had watched a couple, and I just like in the last like 4 or 5 days, I think I've seen them all now.
And
I didn't know
I
that there was a second season. I thought I had watched all of them.
there's 14 episodes. Of the very last one is sort of like this, one about Christmas crazes, and you can sort of skip that one because they just
Yeah.
sort of like cobble
Yeah.
together all this other stuff. But
It's
I
all their
think-
B-roll from all the other episodes.
right.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
They're like, how could we squeeze out another episode? I think I was most, as someone who collects Garbage Pail Kids and really likes, my other Instagram is bootleg_GPK for anyone who wants to follow. And that's featuring all of these artist made and bootleg Garbage Pail Kids. And Garbage Pail Kids originally was a wacky package, although never released, a parody of Cabbage Patch Dolls, Cabbage Patch Kids.
Cabbage
rather.
Patch Kids, yeah.
And as a kid, I hated Cabbage Patch Kids, right? I thought they were lame. My mom bought one and like put it in the closet. Like, I don't know, thought it was going to be worth something. So it was like, I sort of resented it, right? It's like, you're not buying cool toys. You're buying this thing. Why are you buying this? Like, for what? Because there's a craze. Like,
Right.
she only bought one, she didn't buy a whole room full. She wasn't a collector, but, and I had no appreciation for it, and then when Garbage Pail Kids came out, I mean, that was hilarious to me. Like that was irreverent and making fun of this other thing that people were going crazy about. So I think what I realized is that I had a problem with the craze, but as I watched this show and saw this woman creating this folk art, basically, and watch this whole thing explode as this Xavier Roberts guy steals the idea from her, and then they settle out of court, and then he ends up suing Topps because they're stealing his idea. Like that's that's a whole different issue.
No honor amongst thieves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway was how, Cabbage Patch Kids were, with whatever was going on at the time with like video games and Atari and every company wanting to have electronic toys, this was a very basic, cute little handmade that was sort of,
But Cabbage Patch Dolls was made by Coleco, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. And Xavier Roberts still,
I didn't even see the episode.
boom.
Scott's just a Cabbage Patch enthusiast, so.
And I mean, he sold millions of them, and it's just interesting. I think, my takeaway, I have a newfound appreciation for them, knowing where they came from, and watching this woman who made them by hand, and realizing what they were, and how she was like so possessive of them. Like she didn't, like she almost didn't want to sell them, and she made each one by hand. And as someone who's like selling action figures by Mark Todd and this stuff that looks very folky and reduced down to what he calls naive art and stuff like that, I have this newfound appreciation, I think, for Cabbage Patch Kids, that because I spent decades hating them.
Yeah, I agree. I hated Cabbage Patch Kids, but I loved Garbage Pail Kids, and Sour Patch Kids are my favorite candy still.
You want to have a fun afternoon, you give Dove a whole bag of Sour Patch Kids and just watch the science experiment unravel. Yeah. It was interesting to me with the show too, because we mentioned the Slinky and how we're like, ugh, Slinky. But my daughter got a Slinky in a prize bag 2 days ago and has been playing with it nonstop. I mean, when watching that episode about like the stupid toy that as an adult, I'm like, yeah, I have no nostalgia for it all. And then my 5-year-old will still play with it, like happily still play with one. So there's some staying power in some of these toys. And even though, that first episode is not as exciting as the war between the board game giants and, some of these other later episodes, it lays a really good
Matchbox.
foundation. Matchbox, and it lays a really good foundation for the staying power of toys and how important they actually are culturally.
Now that I've seen them all, one of the things, it's a very sort of like, there's the one thing that I liked over the Toys That Made Us is that there was a narrator who seemed to take the subject seriously and not as carnivalesque, right? It was more like the movie phone guy. It was like, this time on the toys, like it, there was a tone. But I have to say this about American documentary television is that I am sick and fucking tired of sound effects on transitions and ramp shots. That
you don't know what's gonna happen now.
It's like,
this
let's take-
episode when you said that.
You have sealed your fate, Scott.
Yeah.
Wow, it's gonna start at the beginning of the episode and it's gonna be relentless.
Like there was
And then
just this,
until you make this comment, right? And then there's gonna be like a nuclear explosion.
yeah.
Get ready.
But I think overall it was really good. The Marvin Glass episode was excellent. The Motu Star Wars episode was excellent. And what I find really interesting about this stuff, particularly right now, is that we are in an age where like licensing reigns so supreme that we're getting stories about licensing all over the place in this documentary. And in the past, 3 months, there have been 2 feature films about people acquiring licenses for things. The Tetris movie and the Air Jordan movie.
Yeah.
Like we're at a point where licensing is such a cultural phenomenon and everybody understands it so well in culture that it's like now we're not telling stories about like how something got made. We're telling stories about how some corporation acquired the rights to something that got made. And
Wow.
like, I find that really because I just watched Tetris last week. And it's a dramatization or whatever. And but it's the story of a licensing deal. It's the story of licensing, and that seems to be like what.
Yeah, because Tetris that got licensed to 2 separate companies.
Yeah,
and so there was 2 separate companies that made Tetris for Nintendo. See, I didn't even see the movie.
I'm just a Tetris enthusiast. Tetris and Sour Patch Kids.
Licensing is really the only way to get your idea out there. Like you can make a few Cabbage Patch Kids yourself, and it's like you can make figures yourself, and you can do your toy fair sitting in the rain, right? Your the Zine Fest or whatever. But if something has legs to the point where it's not just your art, but it's something that for everyone to buy, like you have to have money behind you. And I think after all of my years in designer toy distribution and paying attention to what out of this has creeped into popular culture outside of the little designer vinyl toy movement, are really the companies that had investors behind them. Right? It's Ugly Doll, it's Tokidoki. Those are the brands. Maybe Friends With You, but that's not not as much. But those 2 brands, the thing that's unique about them, that's really different from all of the other, and I have no problem with them. I think they're great. And aesthetically, I find them, both very pleasing. It's just that I just know personally from knowing the creators, like they had business partners who were business people, right? The artist partnered with, I guess that's the other option, is you can license or you can just partner with someone who, has money. You have to be careful. You could end up like
everyone who worked for Marvin Glass in that episode.
Right. Sure. But like when Paul Frank he ended up losing the rights to his name. Like that was a fight. Like it was Paul Frank, and it was Paul Frank Industries, and that's another whole crazy story. And and then they fired him, right? Eventually I think Saban bought it and then had rehired him, and it's all come back around. But there were Paul Frank stores on Melrose, and 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 then the other way is sort of like the lottery, is that you just create something that is so good or already has a name that a company can't rip it off, and that they have to, license it from you. And then, it's like that dude with the super soaker. Like, you just have an idea, you patent it, and it's like, it's so exceptional that a company puts it out, you just make your royalty. He could, what's he going to do? He couldn't afford, that was the whole, theme of that episode, really, is that he could not afford the amount of money. What, I forgot what the number was, but he had to pay.
It would have been $200 a unit for the cost of the tooling to make the water pistol. Yeah.
To only make 100 of them or something like that. You
have to make 1,000, I think.
1,000 of them. You have to make 1,000,000 of them to get that. So
it's interesting on all these things we're talking about. With the Tetris, Jordan, and you can even go back to like the founder from a couple years ago, the McDonald's. Movie, but
he stole that name from those guys couldn't use their name, McDonald's,
but all of them sort of
Roy Kroc has done with them.
all of them sort of position the stories almost as heist movies. And I don't know if this is like a late stage capitalism commentary or what, but they all are treated like heist movies. Like, we got to go and do the job and get the thing. And sometimes it's the hero is the person getting the license, and sometimes the villain is the person getting the license. But it's treated in a very interesting way, and I didn't think about the fact that we are getting all these licensing movies out.
And Tetris is explicitly like set up to be like a heist movie, spy movie, thriller,
straight up
set in the Soviet Union during the Cold War. I think there is a late stage capitalism commentary in there, even if it's unintentional.
I'm sure it's not.
I don't know. I think the most interesting thing that I've seen really is just this crap that comes up in my Instagram feed, where these parents are talking about these studies about where they go in and they get rid of 90% of the kids' toys, right? And that forces the kids to be creative and go out and play with sticks and, help cook dinner and just do all of this stuff. And that actually buying kids like all of these toys is actually not helping their mind develop. And I guess what I would argue with Star Wars and G.I. Joe is that those brands were so broad, and and the mythos of Star Wars, like the whole idea was they made all of these characters that occupied 1 second of screen time. Like, how long is Hammerhead on screen? Like less than 5 seconds, right? But so you have to make up a story. You have to like create this.
Well, it's the foundation for they talked about that a little bit in that episode, the Motu Star Wars episode of the doc, talking about the whole thing when Mattel was going to make their Barbarian line, right, beforehand. Like, they had to go back and do create the narrative in the world, because Star Wars changed the landscape, where the toys became the foundation for the world building for imaginative play. Right.
I mean, even on one of the He-Man prototypes, there's a Boba Fett helmet.
That space guy.
Even there's like, we can't get away from Star Wars.
But it's
we're gonna do something that rivals Star Wars, but it's still.
It's interesting because the way I played as a kid was, it was Star Wars, but it's like Toy Story, right? Where all of the toys come into the world, So my Voltron was fighting He-Mans and stuff. I mean, it was like everything sort of and then where the real creative play is those stories start spinning and becoming their own thing. And I see it with my kid. Like, she does it with Legos, where like the Princess Legos and the other Legos play, and then the Bluey figures end up with the Legos, and so I like seeing that play that I did. And I think that's responsible for me becoming a storyteller, is that sort of play that I did. Is the kids are still interacting that way. And when she turns on Roblox or whatever, it's a very different experience than it's into the game. And not to be anti-video games, because I love video games and I play them all the time, but it's a different kind of play. So I don't know. It's, and I know there's a lot of learning styles and kids all play in different ways, but
Well, I mean, rule-based play of games versus like the freeform imaginative play, like that's all foundational sort of stuff that I could go on about for a while that I won't to bore because I don't want to bore anybody. But
We'll
it's
have
true,
another
like
episode.
yeah. But when you're locked into something and the story is unfolding with you as a participant versus you telling the story, your own story, I think that's very different and like constructive. That's what you're basically saying, right? Like that the branded universe of childhood play is whatever is in front of you. It's not
Right.
just like I'm not just taking out Star Wars toys right now. I'm also taking out the GI Joes, and they are interacting and they are doing things.
But I think something's changed though. I think with every company coming out with toys to represent their cartoon or whatever, they're not these universal toys that are meant for all this creative play. I think they're meant to like be consumed and then thrown out or sold and then go buy, something different. Like, so, I guess my kids are lucky. Like, I don't need to take them to the toy store and buy them stuff. Like I can so my daughter was watching Octonauts, and in this collection came in this whole bucket of like 4 play sets and 3 ships and 20 figures. And I can just bring it home, right? And it lasted like 2 days, right? And I walked in and it was, it's sitting in a box in the corner, and I'm like, "Are you done?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm done." Like it's like just think you can sell that now. I've had my fun with it. Like that's it. I don't know what the experience is like for most people who have to like go buy all that stuff, and it's so expensive, and then just watch it like not get played with. Like
I think part of it's probably just the difference between Star Wars in 77 through 83 or whatever, and now is that blockbuster entertainment culture, the cycle is so much more protracted, right? Like
you get the toys before the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I mean,
just that cycle
Dune,
of, here's this thing, here's the next thing, here's the next thing. Like look at the way that Marvel schedules like media, and then they have stuff more for the adult collector for every piece of media, but that cycle is like every 3 months you're getting a movie or a blockbuster like TV series, like, and that's one brand, let alone all the other brands,
right.
right? Like and I think that might contribute to it because the churn, like we're in an age where that churn is just so much quicker than it used to be. Like Star Wars had so much time to breathe that 2 years, like a year after it was released, they re-released it to cinemas. 2 years after it was released that summer, they re-released it to cinemas.
Right. But I mean, at the time there was, very little cable penetration, and VHS was just taking hold, but it was very expensive. So, when I was a kid, like you couldn't just, I want to watch that. Like if you had a chance to see it in the movie, and then you had to like use your imagination. Like, remember that movie? What happened again? Or you'd pick up those little, there was the book, right, of some of those movies where it was like a photo novel. Like I had one for like Black Hole, and it's like it's like just images from the movie in in a little paperback book where you could sort of relive the. I mean, think about that today, how that would do. Like
the read-along books on tape were a big hit with me.
Sure,
you hear, and you turn the page every time R2 goes,
Those were amazing.
But the whole idea of that too, with that cycle and the way that like we didn't have access to the media in the same way, right? So for us, the toys were the daily encounter with the media, right?
I think that's it.
And this, it's the whole, like, the Mandela effect about C-3PO Silver Leg.
Sure.
Right. And everybody is like you go down an internet rabbit hole and people start talking about how the Large Hadron Collider merged 2 parallel universes. And that's why half of us remember it as being gold and half of us remember it as being silver. But if you look at the original VHS transfer in through the special edition, as they started cleaning it up and remastering it, his leg increasingly becomes more silver because of there's the film stock that they shot the film on in 76, but also our primary encounter with C-3PO for the entirety of our childhood was a vac metalized figure that was entirely gold. Where do you think that information came from that we remember?
Yeah,
right?
interesting.
Yeah. So like I think that's part of it, because the whole idea of if you can access the media, right, and with ubiquitous screens, kids can access the media all the time. They don't necessarily have to access those brands in the same ways that we did, because we just didn't have access to the media in the same way. I think
Right.
that's
So
very
I see
true.
that in my kids. I see my daughter just wanting to watch the same movie over and over again. And it's like, why, if you can just sit down and turn it on and tune out and just watch the same movie 10 times, if you can watch Toy Story 10 times, you don't really need the toys to sort of remind you and
to
and
encounter
interact with
the
them.
story world anymore, because you're just consuming
Right.
the media over and over again.
We had some Star Wars action figures. We had like the Story of Star Wars book, and then we had to wait 3 years till the next movie came out.
Yep.
That was fucking terrible, dude. On
Um,
that note,
You said you couldn't hold up with Robert's episode as far as like insight, but I think you're going toe to toe with the.
What I really meant more, the insight thing, I will accept that, and that's fair, and thank you. I was thinking, however, I will say in terms of talent, maybe.
I mean, look, I don't think any of us can touch that.
Yeah, dear God, that work was just so incredible, man, and getting him to just like doing that deep dive with him in the museum and seeing all that work was just, that was really awesome. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. And if anybody's watching this episode, and if you haven't watched the previous episode, please go ahead and watch that.
So there, we pointed to the archive. Now what's happening next week? And then we covered all of our bases again.
Boom. What is happening next week? Next week, we're going to have Scott Zillner.
Sweet.
Oh, fun.
Scott Zillner is an accomplished toy painter for Sideshow and NECA and
Oh wow,
Gentle Giant. He's also a toy dealer, and he's also a toy promoter, a toy show promoter. He's got another convention. He's got 4 conventions coming up this year. We'll talk about Robo Toy Fest, Power Morphicon, his cartoon show. I don't know. I can't even keep track of how many conventions this dude does. For any of you who are ordering anything on the site, if you mention DKE Toys TV in the notes section, we will send you a complimentary, not in this fancy case, but you can buy the fancy case if you want, but this free invisible Lord figure. So, and if you place the order and you have forgotten, you can just send us an email, dketoys@gmail.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at DKE Toys, subscribe on YouTube at DKE Toys. If you're happy with us, leave us a Google review. If you want to talk to Janky, ask any questions, any comments, or any of that, you can reach us at dketoystv@gmail.com. I just want to thank you, Scott. Really appreciate you.
Thank you,
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to him.
Too many Scots.
I have the most embarrassing story on the opposite side of that, when after DCon at your place, Scott, when Dustin and the family showed up and they all jumped out of the car and said, "Hi, Uncle Scott." And I was like, hey, oh, they're not talking about me.
Oh, bummer.
Well, we really appreciate you being available. I know it's a whole lot later for you than us over here. And,
It's fine. I really, I just appreciate the hang, gentlemen. This was fun.
Super fun.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Uh-oh.